Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Psychology of Spirituality. I'm really excited for today's episode. I'll be looking back at the past decade and reviewing my top 10 favorite psychological films. What that means, psychological films, I know most people think of like Silence of the Lambs or Seven, Mindhunter, even though that's a TV show. I'll be kind of expanding that, films that deal with topics of mental health. I'll be including also psychological thrillers, psychological horrors. It's been a great decade for films, and I really think that cinema can really do lots of things to shift how we view mental health in our society. So we're going to start with some honorable mentions, and then we'll go into my top 10 films. And just spoilers ahead, I'll be talking a little bit in depth about these films. So just in case if you haven't seen them, there's the spoilers for all these films. Okay. So starting with some honorable mentions.
Please believe me. Sweet girl.
What happened to my sweet girl? She's gone!
First and foremost, Black Swan, which is Darren Aronofsky's awesome psychological thriller about Natalie Portman's character. They're doing the Swan Lake. It's really visceral, really raw. Natalie Portman won an Oscar for her role. Great film about the rigorous drive for perfection.
Just tell me what happened.
It's 25 years ago.
I have no idea who you really are.
I think you're done with the past, but the past is not done with you.
My second honorable mention, this really nice, really creepy psychological thriller horror that kind of went under the radar, called The Gift, which is directed by Joel Edgerton, who's also a really good actor as well. So it's really similar to movies like Cape Fear or Fatal Attraction. The need for acceptance, about love, friendship, and also like the unintended consequences of our past. Sometimes we forget about people who we may have met, going about our day-to-day lives, but then they think about us, and the things that we said to them or the situations that we encountered with them still linger in their psyche. So I think the movie did a really awesome job exploring this character that Joel Edgerton plays. So I would highly recommend that. Third honorable mention.
No! Don't open that door! They're going to get all of us killed!
Something's coming.
This might be controversial, but 10 Cloverfield Lane. Minus the sci-fi ending, which I really didn't have too much of an issue of. Lots of other people did. I mean, I really think the first 2/3 of the film are on like an Alfred Hitchcock level of like cat and mouse games. Most of it is set between three characters in a tiny bunker space. I mean, it's such good drama, and then John Goodman just kills it in his performance. He's so creepy, so unsettling. You never know what's going to happen next. I really think that film does a great job really delving into the psyche of all those three characters and how we would feel in a situation where you're asked to trust strangers in a situation where your life may be at stake. And then fourth honorable mention, and I really struggled not to put this in my top 10.
Be careful.
Us by Jordan Peele. It's not directly a psychological film, but it really explores aspects of Jungian psychology. And if you guys know who Carl Jung was, he was really about archetypes, shadow persona, the anima, the animus. The film is literally talking about our shadow personas. And you'll also see so much parallel symbology. The 11:11 that starts the movie off, the scissors, which are parallel to one another. So it's talking about these dual aspects of ourselves. The part of ourselves that's deviant, that's frenzied. That's violent, that's maniacal. Right? Carl Jung would say, in our normal day-to-day lives, there is that aspect of ourselves that's somewhere lurking. And look at the type of sick movies that we watch. Right? These are all outlets for that shadow persona. Okay, so those are my honorable mentions, and now we'll be getting into my top 10 films. Number 10.
이제 진실을 얘기해봐.
So yeah, Burning, a 2018 South Korean film by Lee Chang-dong. It's deeply engrossing, suspenseful. It's a unique film. I think it really explores the dynamics of being a young person in modern society. So we follow Jung-soo, Ben, played by the always incredible Steve Yeun, and Jaime. So, the three characters are exploring ideals of trust, need, authenticity, deceit. The film really tackles the unease that we feel in modern society of growing older, the unease of how to form authentic relationships, and also the unease of how we're never sure how we're really being perceived by others. And it's interesting because people have different standards for what constitutes a great film. For me, like, the true merit of a great film is how it sits with you long after you finish watching it. And I mean, after having watched this film, the visually stunning backdrops, the like eerily familiar situations, getting high with strangers, feeling attraction towards someone, not knowing if they're attracted to you back. I mean, Burning has really stuck in my psyche and soul. So my number 10 pick, Burning, which is on Netflix. So here's number 9.
I have some questions for you.
Who are you?
What's wrong? You're crazy.
I'm crazy!
So Denis Villeneuve, he recently won Filmmaker of the Decade by the Hollywood Critics Film Association, which is well deserved. I mean, this guy is on a roll. He hasn't put out one bad film yet. Enemy, in the same vein as Us, really explores the shadow persona and Jake Gyllenhaal's character, Adam Bell. The uncertainty of who we really are, the multi-layered aspects of our personality, which often go unexplored. What exactly constitutes reality, right? It's all about our perspective. And also the parallels that we find with strangers. These are all themes that interweave in this awesome psychological thriller. Also, I love dual performance films. I've always thought that was cool, even from like when I was a kid. And Jake Gyllenhaal is one of my favorite modern actors. He's up there with Tom Hardy. He's really makes some really, really great choices for the films that he picks. And I'm so excited for the many more treasures that Villeneuve has in store in the 2020s. And I know Dune is set to come out sometime soon, and I'll be there front of the pack watching that film. So that's Enemy. Number 8. So Raman Raghav 2.0. It's an Indian neo-noir psychological thriller by Anurag Kashyap. It's carried by a sensationally bizarre and psychopathic performance by probably like in my top 3 actors in the past decade, Nawazuddin Siddiqui. Ramana, he's a corrupt cop who's inspired by a real-life serial killer named Raman Raghav, who killed 41 victims between 1965 and 1968. Being Pakistani, I've been watching Indian cinema since I was a child. And, even though I love Bollywood, people crap on Bollywood all the time. The sweeping, majestic scores and the long-lost lovers singing in the sweet Alps and all this. I mean, that's great. It's Bollywood cinema. We want to watch that. It's colorful, it's sadistic, it's lucid, it's absorbing, but at the same time, it has a great, eclectic, gripping soundtrack. For those fans of Seven, Dexter, Silence of the Lambs, Mindhunter, I mean, this 2016 film, it will really quench your bloodthirst by delving deep into the turbulent psyche of a man obsessed with lust, violence, and carnage. And even if this film really puts you, put your foot in to really start exploring Indian cinema, and that's a great step. That's my number 8 pick, Raman Raghav 2.0. Number 7.
That's why you look so guilty right now, because you know.
We only do this every 90 years. I was most excited for you to come.
Midsummer. I like saying Midsummer. Ari Aster's sophomore film following the terrifying, if this was a horror film, probably my number 1 pick would be Hereditary. That movie is so insane, and I never stop thinking about that film. Midsummer, deeply claustrophobic, peculiar. It's a psychedelic exploration of relationships, breakups, helplessness, and belonging, Also, the way this film depicts hallucinogenics is amongst the most authentic portrayals in the film. There's no bizarre Looney Toony caricatures of taking drugs, but it really goes into the subtle alterations to how one interacts with their environment. The soft touch of the wind, the fertile touch, when she sees the grass growing from her feet, the sense of unease in being with strangers, the tendency to get carried away and lose sense of where you are and what time even is. And also I love the parallels. You're thrust into this quaint, hidden, utopian Swedish village, who wouldn't want to be there? And then at the same time there's these bizarre and increasingly disturbed rituals, that kind of seem like a hallucination in of themselves, the film has truly stuck with me since I saw it. And also, even though it is sick and morbid, twisted, the culmination of the film, where Florence Pugh's character finds acceptance as the final step in tragedy and overcoming trauma, for me is very powerful, as well as many other people who've been in that state of mind. It's a fantastic film. I can't wait for what Ari has in store in the decade to come. The dude has a crazy mind. Love it. Okay, number 6.
You never know what's next, and that's what makes things exciting and scary and fun.
When did you get Snapchat? What grade?
5th grade.
5th grade? What? Yo, see?
8th grade. The film was immensely powerful for me. I work as a practicing psychologist, for those of you who may not know. As part of my PhD, I work in schools with children and adolescents. The way this film depicted child mental health in a society where the rate of mental illness has far exceeded any prior generation is a true testament to Bo Burnham. The same Bo Burnham whose YouTube videos I used to watch 10 years ago. His skill as an artist is unmatched. And also, man, that lead performance by Elsie Fisher, so vulnerable, so stunning. Man, it really touched my heart. And also, man, the film really inspired me to start delving more into mental health, hence this YouTube channel. Subscribe and support. Also, try to listen more to the young people that I work with, It's not often that I can say a film helped me change my approach to therapy and psychology, but, 8th grade really helped me shift more from a goal-oriented type of therapy that we're trained to do towards a more humanistic one, where you work collaboratively, even if it's children or adolescents, you see them as agents who can create their own sense of meaning, and they can empower themselves even if they live with a mental illness. Like I said, the power of cinema and what it can do to destigmatize mental illness is something that this film will be watched for generations. And I wish schools would actually show this film in junior high school and high school, because what we have is an epidemic in this country and many other nations, and the first step is for people to come out and talk about these things, anxiety, depression, stress, loneliness. So 8th grade is my number 6 pick. Okay, so the video came out to be a little bit longer than I expected, so what I'll do is I'll break the video into 2 pieces. This was my part 1, top 10 psychological films. Next week I'll do my top 5 to number 1. I hope you guys will also, share your thoughts on what your top 10 films were, not just psychological films, but all films of the past decade. Thank you guys for joining us. Like I said, these are number 10 to number 6, and next week I'll do number 5. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next week.